Shabbat shalom, shalom, shalom. My name is ObadYAHu, man Yehud Israel. Welcome to the Community of Israel Ministries. And today I'm going to be teaching on Proverbs, the true meaning, the true definition of Proverbs, and keeping Proverbs in its proper perspective. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Let's start off, you all, in Proverbs chapter 1. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 1. We're going to be talking about Proverbs. We're going to learn some things on the way to learning some things, all right? So we're not just going to deal only with Proverbs, but Proverbs is going to be our springboard. Is that all right? Proverbs is just going to point us in the direction of where we're trying to go. We're talking about perspective, context. We have Proverbs, the first chapter. 90% of all Proverbs was written by King Solomon. There are Proverbs in the scripture that was written by Moses and maybe two or three other authors, but majority of the Proverbs in the scriptures were written by Moses. By Shlomo Yedidiah, which is Solomon, all right? And we know that, Shabbat Shalom, we know that Proverbs, another word for Proverbs, you all, is parable. And it means to liken, to use figurative language and allegory to resemble a sense of superiority in mental action by word, a poem, or a rap. So when you're speaking of Proverbs, you're talking about a figurative language. It is for those that have superiority in mental action. That's who a proverb is for. It's designed for you to figure out what is being spoken. All right? It's not always clear the meaning. It uses symbols. Symbols are being used, one thing to explain another. Figurative language. When you see Proverbs in the Bible, when you see the word parable in the Bible, those are the same words, all right? It means to liken something, okay? And I'm going to show you two different examples of what is a proverb and what is a parable in the scriptures. And we will start off with Matthew, the 25th chapter. So let's go to Matthew 25, y'all. Like I said, we're going to learn something on the way to learning something today. This is a very controversial chapter here, because a lot of people don't like to deal with what it's actually dealing with. This is a parable. This is a proverb. All right. Matthew 25 and verse 1, and it reads, "Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom." So we see here a likening, right? This is a proverb. We see a likening to the kingdom of heaven being likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet their bridegrooms. So you have 10 virgins, 10 women. That's all that means. It's 10 women getting married to one man. So we see that the kingdom of heaven is being likened to a marriage between one man and 10 women, all right? And then it goes on to say 5 were wise and 5 were foolish, and they all had their lamps. But the 5 that were wise kept their lamps with oil. The 5 that were foolish allowed their oil to go out. And so it is comparing that scenario, that marriage, to the kingdom of heaven, all right? And what's controversial about that is that if it was a sin for a man to have more than one wife, why would the Messiah himself compare the kingdom of heaven to a man having 10 wives? So you choke on that. You deal with that. I'm just going to read the scriptures and I'm going to accept what it's saying. All right? And the Messiah would never compare the kingdom of heaven to anything that was evil, wicked, or unclean, or unrighteous. Because a priest's job, which he was the high priest, a priest's job is to divide the clean from the unclean, the clean from the profane. So he can never mix clean and unclean nothing. He's the priest. So he would never mix the kingdom of heaven to anything that was wicked. All right? But back to the topic at hand, which is Proverbs. All right? Figurative language. Let's go to Matthew 13th chapter. And let's continue to deal with a proverb. We're still in the book of ObadYAHu, Matthew. The 13th chapter. We're going to start at the first verse, all right? In the same day when Yahushua out of the house and sat by the seaside, a great multitude were gathered together unto him, so that he went into a ship and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. And he spoke many things unto them in parables or proverbs, saying, Behold, a sower went forth to sow. And when he sowed, some seeds fell by the wayside, and the fowls came and devoured them up. Some fell upon stony places, where there had not much earth, and forthwith they sprung up, because they had not deepness of earth. And when the sun was up, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they were withered away. Some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprung up and choked them. But others fell into good ground and brought forth fruit, some 100-fold, some 30, and some 60-fold. Then he says, who had ears to hear, let him hear. In other words, he who has the mental superiority in thinking, hey, let him figure this out. What am I saying? All right. So let's skip down to verse 18 and let us read the interpretation of the parable, the likening unto. Let us see what he's actually talking about here. All right. It says, hear ye therefore the parable of the sower. We know that a sower is a farmer. We know that a sower is an individual that is planting seeds. His intention is to plant seeds into good ground. But from the container that's holding the seeds to the ground, the seeds don't all fall in the good ground. Some seeds fall on the way. He drops them. How many of you all have ever planted seeds and planted a garden or planted grass seeds and you dug up the ground? You would put your grass seeds in a container, and when you take your container over to the dirt to spread your seeds, sometimes you'll leave a trail of seeds, right? And when you leave a trail of seeds, those seeds, something happens to those seeds too. All right, so we're going to see what happened to the seeds on the way to the dirt and the seeds that actually got to the dirt. All right, so in this case, the hearer is the dirt, or the hearer could be the ground. You have to ask yourself, which one are you, as we read forward. All right, verse 19. It says, when anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understand it not, then come the wicked one and catch away that which was sown in his heart. This is he which received seed by the wayside. So the seeds that fell by the wayside, this is that individual. That seed that went into good soil, it fell by the wayside. And the wicked one came and choked the seed up. All right? The wicked one catch away the seed which was sown in his heart. He snatched it before it could get rooted and grounded in your heart. It was snatched. So it wasn't taken in its proper context, for whatever reason, that individual, when they heard the word, they took it for granted. They took it lightly. They you know how before you really accepted that we were the children of Israel, you might have heard this all your life. Well, you know, the children of Israel is black. Yeah, we heard that before. Yeah, we heard that. But until you really accepted it, it really meant something. Till you really paid it attention. Then, oh, now I get it. Yeah, I've been hearing this all my life, but it never hit the good soil. It always just went by you, and the enemy came and snatched it away from you. That's why the scripture tells us to rehearse the word. We have to hear it repetitiously, because we know that repetition is the mother of all learning. That's how you learn, by hearing things repetitiously over and over and over and over. That's how things get down in your spirit, get in your mind, all right? So, once again, verse 19, when anyone heareth the word of the kingdom and understand it not, then come the wicked one. See, when you don't understand the word, when you don't understand it, then comes Satan and snatch it out of your heart. And so you have to keep hearing it. Faith comes by hearing the word repetitiously, so you can get a better understanding of it. All right? Verse 20, but he that receives seed in stony places, the same as he that heareth the word, and anon with joy receive it. So you hear the word, and you receive it with joy. Yet had he not root in himself, but do it for a while, for when tribulation or persecution arise because of the word, by and by he is offended. This is an individual that hears the word, but don't get rooted and grounded on the source of where the word is from. You come occasionally to that Knesset. You come occasionally to wherever you heard that word, but you don't come enough to get that word in you. And so what happens is, when the very thing that you heard, when persecution comes because of that word, you get offended because you wasn't rooted and grounded enough to deal with whatever circumstance that word brought. Your knowledge will be held against you. You got to know this. And you have to know that you had a covenant with the enemy, which is Satan, who don't quit that easy. You can't send the devil a text message saying it's over. You know, you can't quit the devil that easy and turn from your wicked ways without them things trying to resurface his head back up in your life. You got to get rooted and grounded in this thing to sustain your fight. You have to sustain what you've obtained. So when you obtain salvation, you have to sustain it by faith. Keep hearing the word, keep practicing, and keep hearing it. Well, you know, I heard that already. How many times do I got to hear, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, keep the Sabbath holy? How many times do I got to hear that? I only need to hear it once, so you think. See, you think you only need to hear it once. But then temptation comes. All these invitations and parties and things, distractions that's going to come on the Shabbat. Do you have enough word in you to say no? You gotta ask yourself these questions. You have to ask yourself these questions. This is what this is talking about. He that receives it with joy, but when persecution and tribulation come, this is why you don't see the same people you don't see in class on a regular basis. One year you see this amount, next year you see another amount. You see new faces coming and going all the time. Because where are people at when they hear the word? How serious are they taking this word? You see what I'm saying? Where are their minds at when the word is going forth? Once again, we already talked about this, that we want our mind to go to be verse 23. But we'll get to that in a minute. All right. Verse 22. He also that receives seed among the thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word and he becomes unfruitful. See, we go on to talk about materialism. I got to get mines. I'm dealing with reality. See, y'all, that Bible, we ain't living in the Bible days. See, that's foolishness. There's no time on earth without Bible days. The Bible covers from the beginning of man until eternal of man. So there's no such thing is not Bible days. There's always Bible days. You making the Bible today. The Bible predicted what's happening today. The prophets of old prophesied about this day, and they wish they could see this day. They talked about the day you live in. So when you want to talk about reality, the Bible is reality. It's reality whether you accept it or not. That's a choice you don't have. You do not have a choice for you to be living outside of Scripture. Well, that Bible, that's the white man's book. That junk don't apply to me. You're a liar. You're a fool. You just don't understand. There's nothing happening in this world that the Bible hasn't already predicted. Nothing. We already been pre-told based on one of these two things. Obedience or disobedience. That's what's happening in this world. Either you obedient or either you disobedient, and there's a result from one or the other. So you can't separate yourself from the will of the Most High. You just have to decide which side you get on as far as his will is concerned. You can get on his good side or his bad side. The blessed side or the cursed side. That's the choice you have. But you don't have a choice to make the Bible null and void. You don't have that. You don't have that authority. You do not have that power. Because whether you believe the scriptures or not, they real. And they don't look for your permission to be real. They don't look for your condolence. The Bible does not need your validation at all. Those who got an ear, let them hear. That's it. That's your choice. Choose life or death. That's the choice you have. But you do not have a choice whether the Bible is real or not. So it says the cares of this world. You lose what you hear in the scripture because of the cares of this world, because you put the cares of this world over scripture. We're going to talk about university. We're going to talk about the universe. We're going to talk about universe knowledge. The term universities